I jumped the gun on that. Ladies and gentlemen, kids of all ages, it's another Thursday. Welcome to the Mattriarchy. I am Matt Rhys, and I am joined today by Doug Garrett and Paula Richey. And hopefully some other people will come. They said they'd be here, and they're not, so I don't know. But that's okay. We don't need them, because the entire theme of the show is about independence.
We need to revisit this one on the 4th of July.
Oh, man, I tell you what. Every day is the 4th of July. It's America, for crying out loud. I mean, I had, total side note, but there was somebody on Twitter today who was going on about the shootings that have been going on, that kid that was getting chased down, and I guess he's getting charged with murder for, trying to back off people that were trying to kill him. Mm-hmm. Apparently, Wisconsin thinks that that's murder. Anyway, somebody was saying, when you praise people like the McCluskeys, this is what happens. And I was like, you say that like it's a bad thing.
I don't know who the McCluskeys are.
They're those fellows down in St. Louis that were they're in the gated community. And
yeah, I know.
Yeah, I have seen some great art of this couple.
Yeah, they're a treat to behold. But
I've seen some really good memes with them in it.
Yeah, definitely. They're a very memeable couple. But the fact that they were just trying to mind their own business and make sure that nobody lights their house on fire, and suddenly they're chased out of their own political party for it. Of course, I don't want to get too much into the politics today. Just the idea of independence, the idea about what it means to be an indie guy. Oh, Nick, you live in Wisconsin. Nicholas Mueller says live in Wisconsin is pretty messed up right now. So here's a side note on the subject. Forces of Good and Evil, my webcomic that I've been doing since 2006, right, is set in rural Wisconsin, somewhere along Highway 66. That's where it's supposed to take place, and I picked that on purpose. But we picked that because we're Chris and I, the co-creator, and I are big fans of Mike Nelson from Mystery Science Theater, and he's from Wisconsin. We wanted someplace that would be rural so we could tell jokes about, because we both grew up out in the sticks of western Nebraska. But we wanted a joke that something we could draw from that well, but not be too close to home. So we're not just telling stories about the people that annoy us down the street or whatever.
Oh yeah, I try not to set any of my stories near where I live or where any of my family lives. I don't want anybody saying, "Is this supposed to be me?" No.
How do you guys? So speaking of that, I have a funny story that's not my story. I think it's funny, but it's a little bit vulgar. You guys want to hear it?
Go for it.
It's like if
it's offensive, I'll just
it's late night. It's late night television vulgar. So it's well known fact. F. Scott Fitzgerald drew his novels a lot from his personal life. And so he kind of had a rotating cast of characters that would come in and out of his novels that were inspired by the people that he'd met. And so he lived a life not unlike Jay Gatz from The Great Gatsby, right? It wasn't exactly like that, but there was oh man, that's crazy. I was sorry, Nick was 3 hours from both major protests in Minnesota and Wisconsin. That's wild. That's wild, man. That's like... Anyway, back to my story. So he used to date a girl that was like Daisy from The Great Gatsby. It's based on this girl that he knew in college. It's very openly based on this girl. And his group of friends would routinely show up in side bits and whatever else. Anyway, one of his novels he wrote later, he ends up running into the real life Daisy at a party somewhere where he just had released one of his other novels. I can't remember which one it was. And she says, Scott, which character am I in this one? And he looks at her and he says, well, which bitch do you think you are? And that was the killer of the night, I guess. But yeah.
That dude, there were some wild stories about that dude. I guess the end of his life was pretty pitiful.
Well, yeah. Well, and I mean, like, he had like one thing going for him, and that was his wife. And when she died, it was it. So anyhow. But The Great Gatsby is like just an amazing novel. On my list is to read Tender as the Night, and I haven't finished it yet, but
that's The Great Gatsby's the only one I read, and that was because we had to read it in high school. I was like, I guess I'll read it. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
I enjoyed the hell out of it. But it was really weird. The one thing that was really weird about it, the end of the book, he goes on talking about how, everybody, Nick Miller, I think is the narrator's name, if I remember right. And he goes, talking about everything that happened in New York really was because they were these Westerners from Chicago who'd gone out east to be part of the elite because they had money, right? And it really was a story of the West. And I'm from Nebraska, right? I'm just like, if you think Chicago is the West, there's a whole rest of the country.
He didn't get very far.
I mean, I know, like, it's the second city, blah blah blah, and it's a big deal. Chicago is a big deal in terms of American history, but man, there's a whole lot of America beyond where Chicago is. But that's why it was the Midwest, and we're in the Old West. Anyway, enough of that randoms, totally scattershot. I've had a weird day, apparently. Doug, how's it been going, man? You've been getting those vestry books sent out, right?
Yeah, I've been sending vestry and some Lone Wolf at the same time. I've got vestry 100% fulfilled, except for one person who won't update his address.
I hope that's not me, because I haven't got it.
It's not you, because I'd be harassing you in emails. But I'm down to the last 30 Lone Wolf orders.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping to get it wrapped up and move on to my next personal project soon.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to have that. And I of course got Lone Wolf a couple weeks ago. I do want to do a review, but it's going to be a weird one because there's so much different stuff going on in the book.
Yeah.
But as a whole, I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to preface it by saying, as a whole, I really enjoyed it. But yeah, and because I know you guys ran into some real difficulty with that. But anyway, we might end up talking about stuff. Paula, what have you been up to?
Let's see. I'm working on illustrating the children's book for Jeremy Lott, and I'm also working on the Asha comic every now and then when I have a minute.
That's the Asha the Jungle Girl kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Which is exciting. I think, not that I am the biggest fan of the Jungle Girl meme or idea or concept, but when it's good, man. Something about that whole thing. Oh, yeah. Nick from the chat, Nick says the Weldon vestry cover looks amazing. Dude, you're not wrong, but I want to just pump the brakes for a second. When's the last time anything Weldon did wasn't amazing?
Now that guy's going to be he's going to be a big name.
I don't understand why he's not already. I don't understand how he's been putting out comics for 3 years and DC isn't like pounding down his door.
I think DC's too worried about trying to stay afloat right now to look for than looking for outrageous talent like Weldon.
Something. Well, the weird thing about it is if they did, I don't know how they'd be in that big of trouble. They've got the infrastructure, which is, well, getting ahead of myself a little bit. What I wanted to talk about today was I actually saw, and I hope it was going to be here, Chris, and I can't even say his last name, Hero Shack dude. And Paul, a couple weeks ago, we're chatting in a thread, and apparently I steal my show ideas by seeing what people are already talking about, because this is like the 4th time in 6 weeks I've done this. But I see you guys were talking about the indie spirit, and Paula, you've posted about this several times about we got so caught up with our internal politics that we're not actually standing on our own, doing our own thing, and we depend in the indie sphere and in indie comics. We tend to depend too much upon networking and not enough on making ourselves the product we need to be.
Yeah. See, there's like indie comics or comics creator sphere, and then there's the rest of the world, and we are not reaching the rest of the world. We're just, circling our little circles, and every now and then we drift into somebody else's. But we always come right back. We can't keep relying on the audiences of bigger names. We have to get out there with the rest of the world and show off what our work is so that they know we exist. The only people who know we exist right now are the ones who follow like the major, I don't know, top 5 YouTube channels. So that's not everybody's market. It's not mine.
Yeah. I think that's a real point. And I think one of the things that it comes to too is the idea that we spend a lot, there's a lot of, and this is the tough thing, because there's a lot of energy that goes into the creation process. And so many people who are artists, whether they be writers, whether they be visual artists, part of the reason that we're involved in art is because we're not necessarily the best with people to begin with. So we look for new ways to express ourselves.
Yeah.
But it's like,
it's always been about communication.
Oh, hey.
Our desperate struggle for it.
Yeah. Speak of the devil. Look who just arrived. Matt Crotts.
Oh, my cat just left.
Yeah. I was just about to name
the cat, Matt.
Oh. I don't hear him. I was just about to name drop him. Maybe his mic's acting up. I don't know. I hear a chime. We'll just keep talking. One of the things, oh man, what was I going to say about what Matt had said earlier? Oh, he was joking that wouldn't it be great if he could just have somebody else do all of his press work and then he could just draw all day? Wouldn't that be nice if he could find a writer who could tell the story the right way? Oh, and is he gone? I don't know. Maybe he had to restart his machine. Who knows?
Yeah.
If you could find a writer who could, write the story and who already had all the press savvy, and he could just draw all day, wouldn't that be wonderful? And I feel that, but that's something that's, of course, I mean, we when we're indie, we still got to be the whole show, right? So, hey, Matt, are you with us this time?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Oh,
good.
I hear a voice from beyond.
Yeah. How y'all doing?
Good.
I think we're all good, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a press person.
Well, and it's like one of the things that, Brian Ball, who might be on next week.
Yeah. I'm excited. I thought it was tonight. I was pestering him. I was like,
no,
I got questions for you about issue 7, but I'll just bother you tonight about it. And he's like, what are you talking about? You coming over?
He just thinks you're crazy now.
Yeah.
I'm already over. I'm outside your window.
That's amazing.
I was about to say, if any cars drive by his house slowly, he's going to think it's you.
So, the other thing, too, on that, Matt, is if you want to come into second chair next week, you are welcome.
Oh, cool.
So
yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I think that should work.
Yeah, this is designed as a 2-Matt deal.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was the whole point of the thing. And my other Matt's busy doing college, so
boo for college.
Boo for college.
I like that shirt. Bacon facts #1. What's? Oh, I didn't even know if there was a second part. I just like the top.
The top of your shirt's amazing. You got to be real careful the context you say that in.
Yeah. Depends on who you say it to.
Exactly.
Yeah, so staying independent in comics.
Yeah, yep. That's the whole thing is what does it mean to be indie? And when we talk about like, part of it is that you really are doing the whole show, right? You're taking care of it. You're growing the homegrown product. But one of the things Paula had just mentioned is the idea that for some reason in our indie sphere, the potential to work together in terms of the whole rising tide raises all ships idea easily morphs into really coattail writing. The idea that we'll hitch our boat to other successful people and then see what happens from there.
Oof. Yeah. Well, I guess it's like I guess that's pretty natural, isn't it? Even though it's kind of a disappointment. It's kind of like the Tour de France or something. Like it's easier to hide behind the person in front of you and let them take the brunt of the wind. I guess that's what's going on.
I think there's something to that. The idea of about finding that together, and I think there are some really good examples of a healthy way of doing that too. One of the things like with both you and Doug have been able to do is because you guys are in America where most of the consumers for the indie, like the crowdfunded comics, are located. You guys are doing distribution for foreigners, right? And I think that's a real positive of a way people can work together, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, with both, with Nashitobi, with what Pickles and oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Shabby.
Slovak
Shabby. Goodness sakes. Yes. With Pickles and Shabby, they spent a long time building a following, building their own networks. And so it really wasn't the same kind of a thing, like a coattail writing thing. It really was a situation where there was a natural synergy between these products and these lines, or at least between the personalities that are involved therein. And I think that's a real positive.
I think another one is like I'm writing Doug Garrett's coattails in a way because he showed no I'm serious. Like I didn't know it was legal or possible to work with another person overseas and get the book made, but because of his success, he forged ahead. He did the R&D. He took point on that, and then 6 months later, I can figure out how to do it because he did it first. So there's a lot of that staggering, like someone figures something out, and hopefully, if they're cool with sharing about how it's done, just someone can come a few months later and do the same thing. I think that's a positive example.
And we talking about Doug, talking about Matt, talking about Brian Ball, and not to be dismissive, Paula, because you've got some interesting stuff I want to hit on here in a second. We've talked about before, but with that, each of you guys are doing things or showing other people that there are options, that there are ideas that are outside of the box, right? And said, you can look at Brian's model, right? And in a lot of ways, Brian's model was actually is something that the Mythoverse guys have I don't want to say copied, but have taken real notes from. Absolutely. And the way they're doing their Patreon, their path is not the same as Brian's. Their product is not the same as Brian's. But in terms of the way they're using Patreon is definitely inspired and informed by that. And they have a real strong fan community within the Mythoverse that they've been able to take off because they learned lessons that Brian figured out, in 2017, and I would love to incorporate something like that in the way we do things, but I don't know. But anyway,
I think it's just about finding what works for you. What works for me is this. I played music in punk rock bands and stuff for years and years, and I approached the comic book thing just the same way that I did when I was in a band. You promote yourself, you make merch, you try to get people interested in it, And that's like when people reach out to me, it's like, hey, can you help me, get this book? It's just like late punk rock labels used to do back in the day. If there was a British band, they would handle their music overseas, and then maybe to reach the American market, they'd reach out to a label or somebody over here. And that's that's pretty much, I just copied it from the ideas from the music scene.
Now, Paula, you have done a lot of work in building a platform for people to share in. And I have not taken advantage of that. Although, it's INDIE-XYZ for those of you who don't know. And I'll let Paula talk about it now, actually. I'll tell you my thing in a second. But
Okay, so the idea behind INDIE-XYZ is that we're all independent. We're all creating really fantastic work separately, but that's the trouble with it. We're all staying separate. There's nowhere like we're not all on Amazon or all on Etsy, and it's a terrible idea for us to try to do that for other reasons to get into later. And some of us have our individual websites, and some of us are with a small indie publisher, and we're scattered all over the internet. No one can find us. It's a miracle when they do. So if there was one place online for all the regular people who don't want to go, tracking down us through Google, which it won't work because we're on page 532 and nobody goes there. Instead of trying to track us all down individually on the internet, if there was just one place like a mall, like a vendor hall, like an online database that you can search according to what you are in the mood to read or watch even, then you can just enter in your search terms, and there we all are. We're lined up. We've got our picture of our book. You mouse over it, and you get the blurb about what it is that you write, and you can click straight through to the website wherever they are. I mean, we can't all have our own site. Some of us have to work with something like an Amazon author page or Etsy or whatever. So if you aren't ready to move from there, it's okay. I just link you straight through to where you're already set up.
And one of the great things about the website's formatting is that it's got some really neat, like, searchable items. Like, it's super user friendly, and that's one of I think one of the great things about it. And I was going to say, I've wanted to get Ideal Comics on there for a long time, but our website just didn't have enough stuff on it. But I just recently found the keys to the back door, and so I've started uploading some old blog posts, and we're going to be tweaking it out. And we actually we're going to be installing a store hopefully soon, all that kind of stuff. And so then it'll be a good place to kind of bounce stuff off of there.
Oh,
and
that's great.
Yeah, I'm excited. So it'll be hopefully before Christmas we'll have everything like I want it. But Tyler, you made it.
I did. My wife stole me and went to Target, and then we got home. She's like, "So what are we doing now? When's your show?" And when are you going on that show? I was like, "Oh, it started 30 minutes ago, I think." So we're good. We're glad to be
pressure,
here.
No guilt.
First, long-time listener, first-time caller. So, actually, I don't think you've ever listened to my show, but I'm glad you came.
You guess what? I'll be honest. I've heard of the Mattriarchy, and I've had a ton of people in my comments go, "Oh, heading over the Mattriarchy, heading over the Mattriarchy," and I'm always like, "What is this?" And
Matt,
I'll try to, and then I'll Google it. No,
stuff.
sorry, I'll search it on YouTube, and I can't find it. And so then now I was like, I finally found it. I subscribed, so I'm in now.
It's Mattriarchy with 2 T's.
Mattriarchy. Oh, see, there you go. That's why I've been struggling.
That explains it.
Yeah, that explains it. So
I've
it's
subscribed
not
and
the
I'm
rule
ready.
by women; it's the rule by Matts.
There we go. Yeah, it was funny. I was like, "Oh, Mattriarchy. Why is it like mostly dudes coming on right now?" I'm really confused at the point of this show, so I'm glad I'm here. I'm happy to be here, and I'm glad.
The reason the show got the name is the original original co-host and kind of the the dream guy behind it is a guy named Matt McGibson, and he and I met on Donald DeLay's chat one day, and there were 3 Matts, and we were all like 10 years apart in age, and so Matt McGibson said we were going to start a Mattriarchy and take over the stream, and I thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever heard, and I reached out to him on Twitter, and I was like, dude, we have to make something happen because your name is amazing.
There we go. Well,
Yeah,
I'm glad to be here.
He's good people. A lot of good Matts out there.
There are a few.
Yeah.
I got a nephew.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
There's also some real bastards, but we don't have to talk about myself right now. So, but yeah, Tyler, you have never been on the show before, and so I'm going to ask you to tell me your experience, history, dreams, and hopes in indie comics.
Oh man, yeah. I started making I've been making comics since I was like in 4th grade. But I'd never read a comic, but my friends had, and so I'd see what they were drawing, and I was like, oh, I think I can do that. So from 4th to like 8th grade, I made a 500-page comic. I still have it. All just done on printer paper and pencils, and it has a very manga feel because that's all I'd known. And then I turned 19 years old. Was trying to download some music illegally, saw a pop-up that said the Joker's ripped his face off. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been a really big Batman fan, but I've never read the comics. Found a comic book store, bought the New 52 had just started. Ooh. So it was a perfect jumping on point for me, and I got hooked. And then I went on I'm a Mormon, so and after that I went on a 2-year mission to South Africa. And when I on my way home, someone said, what are you going to do when you get back? I said, I'm going to make comics. I'm going to do it full time one day. And now we're here 5 years later.
Wow.
Not doing it full time, but still, but making comics.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. So, did you, when you first like started making comics, were you trying to like get into the mainstream? Were you trying to hunt down the Marvel and the DC and try to put your name out there? Or were you just like, I got my stories and I think they're better. I'm just gonna do it.
A little bit of both. Obviously, like I would like love to work for them. I mean, right now it's like still a dumpster fire right now, but yeah, when I began, and I had all these stories. I wrote a ton of stories while I was out in South Africa for those 2 years. And when I got back, I was like, okay, it's time for me to make my 12-issue grand opus. And I did the first 20 pages, and I looked at it, and I was like, my art is terrible, my writing's terrible, I have no idea how to do this, and I'm only on issue 1. I don't think I want to do this anymore, and I quit. No. And then someone was like, hey, I'm looking for a comic book artist, and I was like, I can do it for free. And then I drew their 3-issue story. The art was still crap, and then we've just been trying to get better and better throughout the years. And so I think right now I'm at my peak. Hopefully we hit another peak. But yeah, I've always wanted I think as I've kept going along, I keep going back and forth between I just want to stick to indie, and then but maybe I'd love to do mainstream. This year was like, I'm gonna make my own Batman comic. Screw it, I'm gonna do my own Batman comic. And when it came to finally time to write it, I got really bored. And then I was like, screw it, I won't write it, I'll just draw it. And then I started drawing, and I was like, yeah, I'm really bored. So I haven't really thought of doing mainstream stuff anymore, which sucked because for 5 years all I've wanted to do is make Batman. And when I finally said, screw it, I'm going to do it myself, I got bored. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you did 30 issues for that guy?
3.
Okay.
I did 3 issues for that guy.
3 issues. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, 30. My God.
No.
How many pages?
I did. The longest book comic I've ever been part of was my series Demons, and that was 15 issues. But I had Travis Martinez draw it, and then I wrote and colored it. And then the longest freelance thing I did was a 130-page horror graphic novel. And I don't think I'll do another one of those long gigs again. The money was great though.
The little ones add up to big ones, though. That's the ticket, though, man. But yeah, okay. So, how many years have you been working at it?
Let's see. When did I get back from South Africa? Let's go since 2017. So it's only been like 3 years. No, I got back in 2015. My bad. It's been 5 years.
Okay.
Wait, your mission was right after high school, right?
I waited. I didn't want to go. I was like, I'm not going, Mom and Dad. And they're like, No, you're going. You're Mormon, and we're Mormon, and this is what we do for 2 years. And I was like, I'm not doing it. And if I have to get a girl pregnant, if that's what it takes to not go, that's what I'll do. No.
Oh man.
So I waited till I was 20. So I waited 2 years after high school, and then
my wife's grandfather actually had a similar thing happen, but instead he went to World War II, and they excommunicated him.
Yeah, like similar. Like I was knocking on doors, like say, "Hey, come to Jesus," and he did World War II. Like, great comparison. I love it.
I was saying he didn't want. He was the mission was something he was like, yeah, that's not happening.
I got you.
His draft number came up, and he just volunteered.
He's like, I'm out. That's fine.
Like, yeah, I'm going anyway. That's it. So, yeah. So yeah, that was the thing, was he didn't want to do the mission. So.
Yeah, but so I've been doing this. Like the moment I got back, my parents were like, they were like, so what are your plans? I was like, I'm gonna do comics, and they're like, yeah, okay, that's nice. And luckily they bought me an Intuos and a laptop, and they're like, this is as far as we're gonna go in supporting you financially. After this, go get a job. Mm-hmm. So I was like, thank you. I hated that Intuos, just because I could not do the whole looking up at my screen with the pen on the floor, on the desk. So worked on a couple commissions for people, used that money to buy myself a drawing tablet, started evolving my style. I got a scholarship for school. They paid for my whole school, and the deal was, as long as you draw 2 Trump cartoons every week for the newspaper, you will pay for your school. And I went, okay. And I did that for 3 years. And I was drawing other stuff than Trump, but at the beginning it was just Trump stuff. And then I won a couple awards. I won a couple cartooning awards for that, and then now we're just trying to make comics and have a silly goose time.
You should publish that stuff. This sounds like the original Walmart or something.
They're like, it was funny because I was a conservative working in a very liberal newspaper, so they're like, oh, like screw Trump, right? And I'm like, to keep my scholarship, oh yeah, man, screw that guy. Yeah. I've drawn to like anti-Trump comics for a friend. He's hired me on a bunch of stuff, and he was like, I got a gig. Do you hate Trump? And as I was typing, like no, like I voted for him, blah, blah, he was like, I'm going to pay you X amount if you can draw it. And I went, yeah, man, I hate this guy so much.
He employed you, man.
Yeah.
So,
and
he loves Trump now because he supplied you with the topic.
You want to? I mean, not just the topic, but I mean, Trump paid for your education.
I know, and I have a video of that on my YouTube. Like, it's super clickbait where it says Trump paid for my college, and people are like, "Oh, really?" But it's like true. And it was during the election. I was like, "Gosh, this guy's got to get elected because I gotta keep drawing this."
That's
winning.
amazing.
So much winning.
Oh man. So Tyler, part of the reason that I wanted to have you, thank you so much for sharing. Part of the reason why I wanted to have you come in today, because there's this serendipity, and I was talking before you got here. Paula and Chris, who's not here yet, and hopefully he's okay, because he was really certain he was going to make it today. So I'm hoping he's okay. Anyway, they were talking about, how important it is to be independent when you're making indie comics, because otherwise, what's the point? Mm-hmm. And then it was like a couple of days, and I invited him on the show. I said, "This is a great topic. Let's talk about it. This sounds cool." And then a couple of days later, you had your infamous post there.
That's why I'm here.
That's why you're here. That's not the only reason why you're here. I wanted to have you on for a long time, but I needed a really good excuse. I had to figure out, how can I convince Tyler, who's got a much bigger channel than mine, to bother talking to me.
No way!
My...
You could always hit me up, and if I have the only thing that stops me is my baby asleep.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. And
yeah.
Turns out he's awake right now. But yeah,
well, my babies are like adults now, so
yeah, I need to get to that point.
How
does one get to that point?
Well, you just wait. You just
keep
wait.
surviving, man.
Yeah. All it is you just have to make sure that they don't die. And once they're not dead, eventually they get old. That's how it works.
Perfect. Perfect. But
you don't even have to do anything. You kind of have to feed them every once and again. But, just mind the outlets, mind sharp objects, teach them how to mow the lawn safely, and you're good.
Perfect. I'll have to keep those in mind.
Nature takes
after
care
this
of
stream, I'll be like, babe, I learned a ton about parenting. You gotta let me do more of these.
I learned a ton about parenting from a guy in a bacon shirt. It was amazing.
Yes, exactly. Sorry, I totally derailed that.
Yeah. But so the thing is like, I thought this is another voice that I want to hear chime in on the subject, because once again, one of the things we're talking about before we got here is that and one thing Paula mentioned is that it's super easy to get caught up in just selling to other creators.
Yep.
And within the different like spheres of indie comics influence, there just tends to be a lot of drama that gets built up because people think that they're owed, or that they're owed a certain amount of attention from other creators, or that they feel like there's this lusting for the attention of certain creators to try to get that cash money attention. And so not that I want you to necessarily spill details, you can if you want, but some of the frustrations that you were talking about are things I think that really play into this, because what are you owed and what can you expect from other people when you're making comics?
Yeah, well, I made a video actually specifically for this at the beginning of the year, and it was 5 reasons why people don't buy your indie comics, and it was kind of like my way of saying this is the reason why I'm not buying your indie comic. And one of them was the fact that, like, just because we know each other doesn't mean I'm going to back it. I too should like the concept. And if I don't like the concept, but I do back you and I back the first book and you come out with a second one, if that first one wasn't good, I'm probably not going to back the second one. And so a big thing with the group is, I think a lot of creators, it's really easy to find creators and be like, hey, you make comics, I make comics, and then we start all passing back and forth that same $5. And we become an MLM where it's like, hey, Matt, I'm going to back your book $5. And you're like, thanks, Tyler. I'll back your book next month. And you hand me back my $5. And then I hand it over to Doug. And we just do that constantly. So my big focus lately has been, how do I find those real comic book fans? Still trying to figure that out. But that's been my big thing. So when that creator drama hit, I got really scared, because that group that I was part of, that I'd been on for like 5 years, it was a group of 13,000 comic creators, and I was like, oh my gosh, did I just lose an opportunity? Well, my subs went up after I got blocked. My views stayed the same. So really, those comic creators weren't even supporting me. So it didn't matter.
Yeah. And you're of course working on some new projects, the chefs thing.
Yeah.
Which that's a 2021 project, yeah?
Yeah, I'm so right now I'm trying to fulfill Entity, my last Kickstarter, and Indiegogo, and then that's what I'm doing tonight. I'm trying to get the print file ready. And then in September I'm releasing a free 20-page black and white comic on my digital store. It's a pay what you want site. And then while I release that, I'm also going to be writing the chefs. And then in October, we're starting to do a page a day on that book. Well, we're going to try. We're going to try to do a page a day.
So are you doing the art on that as well, or just the writer?
I'm going to do everything.
Cool.
So that's another big reason why I'm excited for it, is I have yet to do a Kickstarter or Indiegogo where it's been my art.
Nice.
Sweet. Yeah. I tell you, when I first heard your pitch for it, I had to crack up we in our webcomic Forces of Good and Evil, one of our characters is the connoisseur, and
there we
his
go.
superpower is the culinary telekinesis.
That's awesome.
He can lift any food with his mind.
That is
and
awesome.
He's a student in our heroes school there in Wisconsin. So,
Are you from Wisconsin?
I am not. I am from Nebraska.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we actually talked about that earlier, but
that's way more. Already, what you just said is way more creative than anything I've come up with yet. So, I might just have to give up at this point.
No, man, no, don't run with it. I mean, like, go. I mean, it's like I can't. There are no new ideas. I mean, that's the thing is like when it comes down to it, there's only good and bad executions. We all have inspirations. We all draw from resources. The Beatles were just doing Buddy Holly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, and I love the Beatles, but they were just doing the next stage of what Buddy Holly was doing, before him. So.
It's funny about that you just said that group, because my friend just because I got kicked out for being Comicsgate, and my friend just sent me a snapshot of that group, and he said, "You're not going to believe what just happened." And Ethan Van Sciver just joined that group and just posted about his Cyberfrock.
Oh my God.
And all the comments are like, "Can't wait, this is awesome." And I didn't do anything, and I got kicked out of the group.
Well, there's some back channel discussion going on about how to handle that. Wow. What is this group now? Like, I was doing solidarity. I was like, I'm not even gonna find out what it was because of what happened to Tyler. But
well, it's kind of
it doesn't matter.
What the whole thing's talking about. People see Ethan come in, they don't care if he's Comicsgate or what. They think, hey, I'll latch on to this guy and I'll make some money. That's all it is, man.
Yeah. That sounds fair.
Star says, of course, when I get on, it's all about drama.
Yeah.
And by the way, with the whole drama stuff, see, now as a creator, you get scared because I have a video. I want to make just like art videos, but I know, do I make a video about this and do I get a ton of views? And then be like, can you guys believe this? Not, but that, now I'm irked.
Well, and the part of the thing is like, I think that there are two sides of it. And to answer Star's thing, and Star, she gives me an appropriate amount of crap, and I appreciate that. But you need to come back on again sometime. If your baby's sleeping enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, not you, Tyler. Star. Before her child was born, she was a semi-regular, and then baby happened, and that takes a lot of attention, especially at first, because they're so needy, and needfully so, because they're figuring out the world outside. It's a whole thing. I miss my babies being little, but I'm really glad they're not. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? So anyway, moving on. Anyhow, but yeah, Tyler, I also would like to have you back on sometime if you want. I wasn't trying to snub you.
You're good. I was like half listening, half like commenting, telling my friend, like messaging one of the mods, like, what the F.
But anyway, in addition, but to deal with Star's point, I think that there is a difference between milking drama and talking about the issues underlying it, right? Because I don't want to sit here and like try to virtue signal and try to act like I'm really important about a thing. But Doug brings up a really important point, which is that idea that when you see people with the big dollar signs, when you see people that have the industry cred, riding along in the indie circuit, right, where they're still mainstream, even if they're making their own book, because you've got that name, you've got that branding. A lot of people will say, well, they'll say, oh, I can't stand anybody who's pro-Trump. Oh, you're Chuck Dixon. I really would like to talk to you, Mr. Dixon. And Dixon doesn't play those games. He just, but we're just trying to think of a comic creator who was pro-Trump, who wasn't necessarily Ethan Van Sciver, for my example.
You got Mitch Breitweiser.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about Mitch.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't go to Walmart with my wife anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I will say, and I don't care if this is drama. I want my damn chicken book, Mitch.
You remember when it was like verboten to like talk about Mitch for like a year, and then I don't remember maybe it was like actually was it them hitting the stands? Is that what it was?
Yeah. See,
Yeah,
here's part of it.
That's a bridge.
Here's part of it is that nobody talked about it. Not because I don't think personally, I don't feel that it was verboten. I think there was enough people that believed in the dream.
Okay,
right?
That's fair.
And
That's
said,
fair.
you know,
I don't
there's no
mean to
way.
dunk on
And here's part of the thing. Even like when some people were like, you know, he's got this Walmart deal and he's doing these other books and he took the money and ran. I was like, no, come on. It was a tough year. He's an emotionally unstable dude, clearly, right?
Oh God.
But clearly, but at the same time, artists tend to be. I don't even think that's the thing to be ashamed about.
No,
Own it.
No.
But
we're not holding that against them.
yeah, we're not holding it against them. We're just stating it. You know, that makes art hard when you're already, you know, whatever. Anyway, my point was like, you know, there's no way we're not getting our book before Walmart does. And if he took his money to start a company, it's his money, it's his deal. Just give me my damn book. Right?
Mhm.
When it hit Walmart and I didn't have my chicken book, that's it, man. That's it. You didn't even work on it. You spent a year and a half not making a comic. Okay? I'm not even an artist, and I put out more comic book than he did.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that what really bothers me about the whole thing is the kind of hurting he put on smaller guys like me.
Yeah.
My book, I've had all kind of problems with this book right here. I've had so many problems with this book, but I've done lots of updates and stuff. But because that guy was such a huge a-hole and did all that, people give me tons of crap about my book, even though I work a day job and everybody involved work a day job. You got an artist who doesn't work a day job, but couldn't do his book. But now people are mad about crowdfunding and giving the real indie guys, you know, a really hard time over their projects.
Yeah, and I mean, and part of the thing is, I mean, you look at people like Doug Ernst, people like Tim Lim, right? These people that are knocking books out of the park, that are giving you excellent quality. Even Bill Williams, who's been on the show, so you know, name drop. He's done mainstream comics, but even with his indie stuff, he constantly produces quality, consistently puts it out. You know, and I mean, and so it's not like we're there are people in the indie sphere or people that have straddled the line who are still putting out enough stuff. But you get enough big names, you get enough big campaigns that do really poorly, and then it just rolls downhill, you know?
Yeah.
And of course I can't, and I got a full disclosure, right? We are going to be with the Expositioner of Vox, was Vox Populi, the Solo Voce book is going to be more than a year late because we have run into problems and we suck.
But you provide updates, and
not as often as I should, but
you have offered to give backers refunds. I don't see. I mean, I can understand being upset if something's late and everything. And if you want your money back, get your money back.
Yeah, that's true. And that's the thing is, for anybody who is watching, if you do want your money back, 100%, we're going to make the book no matter what. But we haven't spent any of it. It's still sitting in our savings account. So,
but I mean, you look at everybody here. Everybody here, we're not full-time artists. We all have jobs and we do jobs, and I'm way more willing to cut somebody like, man, you look at Tyler on Twitter a while back where I believe it was you was posting you were drawing at work during your breaks.
Yeah, dude, I still do.
Dude, I mean, to me that's super hardcore. And if you had a book and it was late, I'd be like, dude, the guy's working on it all the time. You know,
well, I think I've got to correct you, Doug. I believe Matt is professionally an artist as well.
No. I'm going to let that slide. What I do is not. I draw dead people
I
in
was
3D
gonna say
programs.
he's not
It's not.
a professional comic book artist.
There you go. There you go.
I'd have
Wait,
to
I'm
take
sorry,
my lunch
Matt.
break.
What is it that you do?
It's medical
He draws
animation.
wieners.
It's not. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, I draw wieners.
I couldn't, but I'm sorry.
Oh my God, you're
No, yeah.
giving my show a PG rating, and I haven't even started swearing yet.
This is why I wear a headset instead of using my mic.
Yeah, watch out. What? Hey, I got a question. So there's a tension. Okay, so the big guys, when a big guy fails, there's a lot of reverberations throughout. Everyone else's campaigns can suffer, and often do suffer because of that. But do they suffer just because the big guys came in? You know what I mean? Like, because that's kind of a question that comes in too. Like we're hustling from the ground up, and other folks are coming in from the top down into the indie sphere. Is that a problem for y'all, or like what do y'all think about that?
I don't really see them as indies myself. I mean, even if they come in, to me, I honestly don't think it's going to bring me any customers. If like Scott Snyder's doing his book, I don't see it bringing me any customers. Nobody's going to go, I'm buying this Scott Snyder book. I wonder, hey, look, there's a Doug Garrett guy. I've never heard of him. They're not going to back my book. So to me, it doesn't bother me. I mean, it's no big deal to me either way. I don't think it affects anything for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, sorry, go for it.
Yeah, it's very close to the problem that you have already as an indie, because people are so conditioned into thinking that if it's in the mainstream, if it's like in a real store or on TV or in a real theater, then it must be better than anything all these little piddling, part-timers will do. But actually, the very opposite is the truth. We are passionate about what we do. It's not our retirement hobby. This is what we're trying to build. And, we haven't had, our decades in the industry, and we haven't had a regular paycheck doing this. No, we are doing this and taking care because we love this. We believe in comics as a media. We believe in reaching people with these stories that really can't be told any other way. And it's just, it's not the same. It's not the same. I'm still happy when the pros come on in and if they deliver. Yeah. I'm happy when a pro comes in and turns out, top quality work and delivers it. But he's making everybody look bad if he don't.
And I think,
because if this guy who had his job be this thing and he couldn't get his books out on time, then how's that make the rest of us look? Nobody's going to think, oh, well, these other people want it more, even though they've never had a job in it.
Yeah, I think part of it too, it comes down to, what makes up the market, right? Because one of the things that you had with Ethan and even with Zach is you had a bunch of people who used to read comics or were mildly interested in comics and weren't really in there, who'd gotten caught up in the moment, right? This is 2018 moments, right? And some of these guys, they weren't about the indie sphere to begin with, right? They were looking for something new. And if they got burned because Cyberfrog was a year and a half late, or they got burned because Red Rooster is going to be 2 years late, right? Then they're going to be angry. They may walk away from comics altogether, and so then
that's their only experience with indies,
right?
Yeah,
because that's all their experience with indies. They weren't rooting through the quarter bins to find the black and white Canadian comics. They weren't all that. I just picked some up last weekend. But they weren't because that's how hipster I am. They weren't the diehards. They weren't washing the ink off their hands when they were 14. You know what I mean? They weren't, all that kind of stuff that is, not Tyler, it's funny to me you talking about not reading. I cut my teeth on Sunday funnies, and then I got into comic books, you know, with Uncle Scrooge adventures and stuff when I was, you know, 11.
Yeah,
And,
like
yeah.
I saw my only thing of comics I saw was newspapers, and my friends had gave me one copy of Shonen Jump once, and I read that thing like 30 times, the same stories, and I was like, this is the best. But you're right though. If someone comes in and they're like, oh, I know Bitch, or I know Scott Snyder, they're a pro, and I'm not familiar with Kickstarter, but I'm gonna do it for the first time, and then it's late. They're gonna be like, man, like why would I want to wait? Why would I want to wait that long for? Why would I want to pay? My big thing right now is why am I paying buku bucks? Like us as creators, we know how much a comic costs to print. Doug knows how much it costs to print. Matt knows how to knows how much it costs to print. It's obviously it's different with different printers, but we can get a general gist. And when I see that your book is like like quadruple that, plus there's like a huge shipping rate, and it's like a 20-page book, I know, okay, there's something going on that I don't like. Yeah, exactly. It's for the money. Whereas you get hobbyists who are doing it because we love it. I mean, look at like Tim Lim and Matt Pellegrini. Like they are just putting all the money into their campaigns to make these books beautiful.
And that's one of the things about what Matt and Tim have done, is that like every campaign, their price point goes down because they can know how much because they're building their fan base, so they know how much their math is severely good.
Yeah,
so they're like, well, we're gonna get this much because this is the amount of love that we are getting.
Mm-hmm. And it's awesome. It's awesome that they're able to do that.
Go ahead and bring that price down. Well, that's like, you know, even with what, you know, Tenaple has done with his Indiegogo campaigns. Everyone's a hardback book, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
hey,
you know,
I gotta bounce. My kid just woke up and that was him breathing. Say hi. Okay.
That's a good priority.
Yeah. So,
well, man, Tyler, thanks so much for coming on.
No problem. Hey, hit me up sometime.
Oh, sure, man. Sure.
See ya.
See ya.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Star in the chat says, has anyone figured out newsprint yet? Yes and no.
I've done 2 newsprint books.
Oh, nice.
Newsprint is not affordable.
Really?
The difference is how many you're getting.
Yeah, the only reason that Alterna does it affordably, it's not based on paper. It's based on how many they print. You can do gloss and get the same prices. All the printers I've talked to, they don't do newsprint because it's, you know, most people don't like the paper, but they like it makes no difference in price pretty much.
Well, and some of it has to do with the printing technology too. Like the big like newsprint printers and the people that do the ad inserts and stuff. These are printers that are like the size of a warehouse, right? And so like if you're not printing quantities, which is like anything less than 5,000, a run of 5,000 a piece, then you're not going to get the rate you need to actually make it worth the money.
Exactly.
Well, I feel a little cheated. I thought the whole thing with the newsprint was they were passing the savings on to you.
Well, they are printing the quantity.
What you're doing
because they're getting
Alterna
can because they're making enough, but you and me, we're not going to sell 5,000 copies of anything right now.
And the thing is, when you print with Alterna, you're helping them get the cheap prices because you're adding to the number of books they need to print.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they could give you the same book on better paper, is what you're saying, for the same price.
Yeah, like for us, the quantities that we buy, it ends up being, you know, negligible. It's no. We won't get a good deal unless we get like 5,000 books or something.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it is a big difference for them at that price, at that volume, I guess.
And like the amount that DC prints for is barely. My understanding is like they pay barely more per copy than Alterna does, but it's because the printers that Alterna uses doesn't have the same volume of printing. So so they are looking for that lower. They're looking for that lower number to balance out what they need to do to break even. So
sure.
They're just big enough where newsprint is cheaper, but for Marvel and DC, they're so big that newsprint isn't cheaper.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the trade-off on all of that. And then the other thing has to do with like but that's just because they're printing up so many DC's, and I think DC's numbers are ridiculously small compared to how they were.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really change anything for today. Like when I got into comics back in the early 90s, they were freaking everywhere, and they were all newsprint back then still too. But they get so many books at the same price per unit that that DC doesn't pay much more than Alterna does, but Alterna gets a lower price for theirs because of whatever. So DC could
cheaper. It's slightly cheaper to ship newsprint. It weighs less.
Yes,
literally.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
And they're in the U.S. I think there was difficulty getting a lot of comics printed because they were printed in China.
Well, yeah, and they moved, and because DC had been all in the States in the early 90s, and then they moved to all Canada, which was funny because like the comics were more expensive in Canada, but part of that was the exchange rates, and part of that was the shipping from Canada to New York
to Canada. So genius is running this business, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was their they wanted to handle their distribution. This was before Diamond, right? When that was going on, like in the mid 90s. And there used to be a website out there, silverbulletcomics.com. And Bob Rozakis, who for many years had run DC's production, he was a kid who lived in New York City back in the 70s, who walked up to DC Comics and said, "I would like to have a job here." And they're like, "Okay, kid, here's a stack of comics. Walk down to our newsstand and sell them."
And Jonah Jameson's just like,
yeah,
what are you doing here, kid?
Pretty much. And it was they had a thing called the Bookmobile back in the 70s where DC would buy up returned books back from distributors, and then they'd send them in like an ice cream truck and drive around New York City for Saturday afternoons and sell them to kids for like, a nickel or whatever.
Can you imagine?
I'm going to start doing that. That's my new business.
So,
fun.
You kids want some Lone Wolf? That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I
you
can
get yourself a really long coat.
I'm just hanging out of the back of a van going, "Hey kids, come here, kids.
Hey kids comics right on the sides
of this, kids."
200-year-old Native American zombie killer. Come get him.
Oh man,
parents be calling the cops or some weird bearded man. My kids.
Oh come on, you're there in Tennessee. There's got to be lots of weird bearded men, right?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. They all open carry.
I got an uncle out there. Him too.
So, anyway, but yeah, I think that was. But Bob Rozakis started doing just odd jobs, being a runner. He ended up getting pushed over to doing the Bookmobile. That's how he paid his way through college, and then he ended up getting a job in production and ended up being the head of production. And so he used to have a column and talk about all the kind of things that they did in the before Diamond days, because that's kind of when DC went exclusive with Diamond in 12, I want to say. And
really
Bob retired. Well. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's
this
really
whole thing's
new.
Pretty recent.
Yeah, Diamond's been around for a long time, but the exclusivity contracts are much newer than people realize.
Yeah.
And so everybody freaking out about that was really funny because it's new. It's really new. It's less than 20 years old. And so another funny thing, I'm going to segue drastically away from my point so I don't forget about it. I saw a video on the internet today, and people were talking about that one of the problems with DC was that you can't just get a job there like the old days, where you get your portfolio together, you go meet a editor there at a con, and you get in. Now everything is nepotism, nepotism, nepotism. But the funny thing about that opinion is it's ignorant of two points. One, all comic jobs prior to the 60s were based on nepotism. Stan Lee worked at Marvel because his uncle was Martin Goodman, the publisher.
Yeah.
Bob Kane had a short run to get Batman published because his uncle was the publisher. And they all knew each other. They were people that went to art school together, served in the military together, all this different kinds of stuff. Or they're people that just happened, like Alan Bellman was a guy, he passed away last year, but he was a friend of mine, and so I got to hear a couple of interviews with him. But he was a guy who had some art school and just needed a job and just walked down to Timely Comics with some sheets, and he happened to get there right after like Kirby and Lee and a bunch of the other people had left to go to World War II, and Bellman was a little younger. So his draft number didn't come up. And so he got a bunch of work just because they had a bunch of people just leave.
Wow.
And yeah, that was it. I mean, it was the right place, right time, the right guys. Roy Thomas, was I don't want to say invented necessarily, but virtually invented the fan magazine, the fanzine, and got a lot of attention. And he was there, and, he was close enough to come into New York and meet all these guys and interview them for his little magazine. So he got handpicked by Stan Lee to take over as editor-in-chief for a while there, because it's all, based on who you know, up until the cons were invented. But the con circuit was only a place to get a job for 20 years maybe before they stopped open submissions. It was like the mid 70s until the mid 90s. So, even then you were lucky to be able to get his attention at a con, So that wasn't really the way either, I don't think, And so I think that springs to the importance of going indie, of doing it yourself, because and building those skills, and having people to come at you and correct your work and all that kind of stuff, because that's the only way to really demonstrate that you know what you're doing, and then you're making comics the whole time. So if you break in or don't, who cares? You're producing the thing that you love. That's my take anyway.
I was going to change the subject back to newsprint.
Yeah.
There's a printer called RA Comics Direct, and you won't get any prices any better anywhere else, but they do offer what they call aged newsprint, which I got my green screen on, so it's going to look funky. But the paper is really, really nice, and it makes the colors just really pop. And it's got a really nice old school feel to it. So if you're going to do newsprint, hit them up. It's RA Comics Direct. They're really cool. It's always neat to do an old school kind of book.
A bit of a texture on there with the paper.
Yeah, like in this, actually, if you handle it a lot, it'll actually come off on your hands. It's
yeah. That's.
I hope it starts getting that funky smell here in a few.
Oh, that moldering paper smell.
Yeah,
dude, my grandmother was a librarian. I love that smell. Like that's warmness and love, man. A moldering paper smell. I can't get enough of it.
Hey, before we leave nepotism, I just want to say I love nepotism. And here's why. I think there's a place. There's a benign nepotism that's good, and that's hiring your friends because you vetted them in the sense of like you got to know that they were cool dudes or dudettes, and you knew you could trust them on a character level, so you're more willing to give them a shot on a business level.
Dudettes.
Yeah. Sorry, Paula. I think I said dudes and only dudes earlier, so I'm trying to
That's okay.
fix that.
There's a friend I have. She's a coach and singer and everything. She calls everybody dude.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Yeah,
Everybody.
it's a gender neutral term.
That's my take on it. But my wife mocks me. She says you're awful high strung for somebody that calls everyone dude.
So what? Yeah, what do y'all think about? Like, what do you call working with people that you learn to like? You know?
See, I don't think that that's nepotism.
Yeah.
See,
I know. I'm just screwing around. But,
no, I mean,
Really
something
talented
good to it.
friends, man.
I know what you're saying, and there's a thing about hiring your friends, but the reason you hire your friends or you hire your people that you know are trustworthy is not because they're your friend. They're your friend because they're trustworthy, right? Like I've got,
okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like you vet people you know, and the people you want to associate with, the people you can rely on and trust on. And like I don't want to tell tales out of school, but I've had art partnerships break up because somebody wasn't able to fulfill what they said they were going to do, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, and not just recently, that's happened to me several times, or somebody who like is on board and then all of a sudden they just like stop turning pages in. We've had turnover with we've had several different artists work on Forces through the years. And sometimes people just are like, I think I'm done. And sometimes that's okay if you're honest about it, but don't drag me along and tell me you're getting me a page if you're never going to deliver, dude. I'll draw it myself first, and well, I don't know anyone wants that, but that story's got to get finished.
Yeah, well said. I just thought I'd prompt. I'd just give someone a softball with that one, but there is something to that, But I think you figured out what that something is.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you do make friends with people because of their character.
Well, and there's some people that you like that you wouldn't want to do business with too.
Yeah.
There's some people that you'd have a beer with, but you don't want to.
I've had to learn the hard way that there's some people that I like being acquaintances with, but you can't rely on them to do anything for you. Even though they're artistic types and they post lots of artwork, or they write a lot, you still can't rely on them to. And honestly, that's one thing. Like we're talking about being indie. A lot of people want to say that they're indie artists and stuff, but they don't have the drive or the passion to get anything done, and they want to latch on to you. They want to find somebody who does have the drive, who is trying to get something done, and that drives me insane.
Yeah.
Did you find, Doug? Did you find that was was there like a change in the wind? Did you sense after you started fulfilling, like people dropping in your DMs a bit more, saying, "Hey, buddy,
yep,
what's up?" Yeah.
Yeah,
you got a sense of that? Yeah, I did too.
Well, see, one thing was when I started doing Legends, I had certain people that I wanted to work with, and I wanted to do stories, and most of, a couple of them still in the book, but then I had all kind of people saying, "Oh man, I really want to be a part of this. I want to do this. I want to do this." Dude, there's so many people who just halfway through promising stuff, or they would do like one page or something and disappear, and you'd never hear from them again. I've still got a whole DM group, probably with 10 or 15 people who never did anything.
I am not in the DM group, but I have pitched a story and never followed through for Doug there. So I got to be honest, Doug, I still have this story, but it's down the list for me.
Hey man, that's the way it is. I got all kind of stuff. And so that's one thing, like some people, like you were talking about friends, I had a couple people I've made kind of friends with online, and I never in a million years would have thought, that they would be the kind of people that just step up and do stuff. And they've really just surprised the heck out of me. And I've got other people who's like, "Oh, I do this, and this, and I've worked on these things," and they're not reliable at all. So
one of the things that I think, and it's weird because I think that money is a really good motivator. But at the same time, I think that there is a certain amount, like if you're not doing it for no money, I'm not convinced you'll do it for money. You know what I mean? Like I think there's sometimes where it's like, well,
practice.
Yeah, I think I think I might be an American artist thing too, because I know, like I've talked to I've talked to Dan Sakharov and Brian Ball and other folks that work with people outside of the country, and their artists get things done, right? They're just dead set about it. But man, why are some of us American artists, man, we're just fat, lazy, soft, and weak. I mean, it's just...
these non-Americans are doing the jobs Americans aren't willing to do. That's been my experience too. It's crazy.
It's true though. I mean,
I have a suspicion. And I don't think it's an American thing. I think it's a postmodern thing. I think it's the idea that art is self-expression. Like, we were pitched this, but like in the pre-modern, even the modernist idea, art's a reflection of greater truth, right? And those artists who are serious about the pre-modern philosophy tend to knuckle down because they're trying to, not necessarily tend to, but I think there may be more impetus for them to knuckle down because they're trying to prove something. And I think also those that are just trying to scramble, that are just out there to do it, right? But I think a lot of the American artists, there's been so educated into and bred into and bought into this idea that it's about expressing myself, and my inner self wants to play Far Cry 3 all day long.
Well, and we're very
self-care. Yeah.
We're a very emotional culture too, I feel like. And I think over the last 3 or 4 years, it's been a lot of emotions that are draining folks, because I get stuff like, I ask people, I've never seen this before, but I ask people nowadays, in 2020, if you ask an American artist to draw you something, you're like, I got money up front. Can you spare me some time? I got a loose schedule. We got months we can work with. And they just say, I'm just not in a good headspace right now to be taking on any.
Dude,
never heard that.
Dude, I don't want to throw this dude under the bus, but I have pages and pages of artwork and half of a book done, and the artist keeps telling me that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I have been there a couple of times. Actually, funny story. Star in the chat was talking about, we were talking about maybe working on a project together about a year ago, and she just found out she was gonna have a baby, and like, I'm not sure I can do the book by then, and I was like, it's okay. It's a script I wrote a decade and a half ago, and it needs some huge rewrites, and she gave me some awesome notes. But it didn't get done, and it was fine because she was upfront about it. But that original project I had started with an artist in 2006, and they flaked out a third of the way through the book.
Were they also 6?
The original artist in 2006 had flaked out a third of the way into the book, and so like, I just had to scrap it. I think it's okay because it's going to be better later on than it was then. I've matured a little. The story, it was a little slow moving. It's a slice of life in the middle of a superhero universe, so it moves from a slice of life comic into an action comic. So it needed a little more massaging than I gave it when I first wrote the script, and the guy who was editing it at the time, we were both too young in the craft to give it the thing it needs, and so it's going to be better now than it could have been then when it ever gets done. But yeah, I still appreciate the forthrightness Star had that I did not get from the original artist.
Well, okay. So this is if there's anyone listening to this and they're not a creator and they're thinking these guys, they're throwing a lot of flack for these pros coming in, and it sounds like all these people who don't do this for a day job can't get their work done. Well, what's up with that? Like, what's the problem? Why are we trustworthy? Like, are we just trusting? Is it like these group projects that are really letting us down? Is that the factor? It's not necessarily that. It's not a pro amateur thing, right? It's not that. I hope it's not, or we're all screwed. But
Well, I mean, I think with everybody here on the table, all of us have finished stuff, right?
Yeah.
Now, my first crowdfunding was an utter failure, but it is so far. We're still moving along.
where's
But
my
forces have been
90s
going
kids
on.
with keychain wallets book? Rhys.
I'm working on
I'm
it.
just kidding.
I'm working on it. That's what I was talking about. But the forces has been going on since 2006, right? We've got 27 stories that are part of that opus. You can read them right now. Some of the art's really terrible because I did it, but we're still working on it. Doug's got Legends of the Lone Wolf. He finally got that sent out, which is awesome. He's been helping other creators out. He's been building a thing. That's great. Matt, you're getting ready to fulfill, or we're waiting on the shipping, right, for the second volume of Kyrie. And Paula, you've been you did your second issue you just filming on, right? Of Soulbound?
I haven't quite fulfilled issue 2 of Soulbound because I tried to do my final check on my pages when I was really, really, really tired, and things went badly. So I had to get the print run redone. It doesn't affect the story. What it is, me and my brilliant ideas, man. My freaking brilliant ideas. Okay. So my artist Mia is the most amazing person on the planet. She is a saint. She is an artist. She's incredible. And she has her own comic that she wants to come out with. And I said, "Oh, wouldn't you love to see some of that in print? Can you get me I have 3 extra pages left, to fill out my page count.
Oh,
Would
nice.
you like to add a 3-page teaser?" And so, okay, so here's the front of Soulbound, and look, it does a trick. It's a flip comic, and you start reading it from the back. Except her
cool.
pages are out of order because I could not check them upside down when I'm tired.
Dang.
Okay, so that's terrible. I can't do it. So I can send them out to my backers, and my story's fine, but I still feel terrible. So well, thank you. I still feel terrible. So I will be shipping out misprinted copies, and then I will be shipping out properly printed copies. And I don't care that I'll have to ship them all twice.
Wow.
It's painful, but I did make a little bit over my goal, so I think I'll just break even again.
Well, that's me breaking even. I think on Legends of Lone Wolf we promised so much extras. I'm actually paying for stuff out of pocket at this point.
But you love your readers.
To me, I don't make stuff to make money. It's fulfilling to create.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that. It's like most artists I've talked to, and they're like, "Well, how much can you pay me? Can you pay me $150 a page?" I'm like, "Well, don't you just want to create something?" Like, no, I need money.
Yeah.
Only money.
I need some of this.
So back to Matt's point about the pros versus the indies thing. I think Doug mentioned earlier. Those of us who are straight indie, we not to make excuses because it doesn't make it okay, right? But we also have 40 hours a week that we got to plug to the man. We gotta gotta pay the bank. You gotta pay Uncle Sam. You gotta feed the kids.
Yeah.
And comics aren't doing that, man.
No.
So I think that's a big factor, and I think a lot of what
for me it's slightly different. I don't have a day job, but I do teach my own children.
Yeah.
Well,
Nice.
that's a job.
Absolutely.
And a half. Well, thank you, Star.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, I think with that is a valid point. But my point is a lot of people that are indie fans that are just into indie comics, they don't care, right? about
it's
those
so scared.
sort of delays. They want the product, but if they're buying from somebody who's starting out, they have a different set of expectations than if they're getting something from somebody who's established, right? You even talk to, because we did a fans, I don't know, only fans. We had a just fans stream show a few months ago. Bush. We had oh my God. we did a customers only show where I had Vicky and Mark Ramos are the two people that came on, and they're not interested in making comics. They just want to buy comics. And they Mark he's like pretty much like I was, I did the big two and I've sort of given up on them and I'm only into comics. They have a different set of criteria for somebody like, who they're doing it as a sideline versus somebody who's doing it for their thing. And if Doug TenNapel suddenly was, in my shoes, starting a whole book over at page 1 after being 9 months late, that's a problem, right? The Mark wouldn't have a good opinion about that guy. But somebody like, me, who, I had an artist leave the fellowship, well, that's a whole different thing.
See, like I feel bad because like I pretty much got the Indiegogo covers for my book shipped out, but I've still got the Brad Ashworth covers and the hard covers, which is 30 orders. But I've been working, like my last check, I had 36 hours overtime on it. And I've been trying to explain to people, and it's I'm not trying to use it as an excuse, but when you're not home, it's hard to get things done. Like for the last couple of weeks, like I'm not been on the internet. I don't talk to anybody. I come home and I crash. I don't even sleep in a bed half the time. I sit down on the couch and fall asleep or in a chair, get up and go back to work. And I hate that that's the way it is, but with my job, I can't say no. It's not one of those kind of jobs, I have to take care of human people. So, to me, I hope people understand and cut me some slack and realize, I'm not sitting around playing video games. Or I know some people get mad because they see me stream on the internet. I had somebody get mad because I streamed for an hour today because it's like, this is the first week I've not had to work overtime in like, months and months and months. And I had somebody get mad and they were like, where's my book at? And I'm like, it'll be there. This is the first time I've been able to sit down and have a minute to myself. It's just, Well,
can I say there's one thing, like I might be in a minority, this is just me, but I tend to think if I know the book's done, then I don't mind that it's taken a few weeks to fulfill, because there is something to that, the expectation of knowing that it's going to come, and you're seeing on Twitter or something, or seeing on Facebook other people getting theirs, and you're like, oh man, I want mine. And
I think
that can be a good thing.
I think where I kind of failed though was I communicated in other places what was going on, and I didn't feel like in my updates to my backers that I should be like, hey, I've got all this going on. I felt like it was making excuses. So in a way, I feel like that's probably my fault. Because, on Twitter, I was like, I posted my pay stub. I was like, look, 36 hours. And on my YouTube show, I'm like, I worked, 1 million hours this week. And I didn't convey it to my backers. And I feel like had I took the time on my update, maybe even just posted a small video clip or something, maybe it wouldn't have come, they would have been more understanding. And I find that most backers most people, they don't. It's like you were saying, they have a complete different expectation from me than they do other people. But I don't think they realize how bad that I feel about it, that it's late. There's nights that I can't sleep because I'm like, I want this book to be done. I want this to get over. It's like I've had a hurdle here for like 6 months that I can't get over.
Yeah.
Yep. And I definitely understand that. I can't stay awake though, there with whatever it is, so nothing keeps me up at night. I just I have sleep problems. Sometimes I can't stay awake during the day.
I have that problem sometimes.
I keep going through a combination of coffee in the morning and melatonin at night.
Coffee has very little effect on me other than the caffeine headache. If I avoid it, if I avoid coffee, I will have a headache, but it doesn't. I can drink a pot of coffee and still sleep like a baby.
That melatonin stuff.
Coffee's life.
If you ever want to have a brainstorming blue sky session, take an extra thing of melatonin one night, because you're going to get some lucid dreams. You just better have a notebook by your bedstand. That's been my experience.
Oh, goodness. I tried doing that. The next morning, I'm like, what on earth?
Yeah.
I just have
These are
crazy
terrible.
nightmares all night. That's all I have.
Oh, no, really? Oh,
Yeah, man.
My dreams are not typically. I don't really remember. You typically remember them, very seldom. But I have had 2 very, very vivid dreams that will one day be stories that I still remember. And so, yeah, that's the whole thing. Before we move on, there were a couple comments in the chat that I wanted to go ahead and talk about because I think this is really an interesting thing, too. Kraken, Nicholas Mueller says, Kraken used to be a big printer in China. They went out of business, and a bunch of crowdfunding books got stuck at the border. People had to pay extra to get their books, and Kraken didn't tell anyone. They went defunct, so a bunch of creators were at a loss for 6 to 8 months with no word of what happened to their books. And that's another thing too. I don't know if any of you guys followed the tragedy of Wanpool,
I just know he was like homeless for a while and all.
Well,
this
yeah,
stuff.
I mean, yeah. Troy went through some whole stuff too, but in the middle of all of that, like the printer they were working on was just, I guess, giving them the runaround, and the book's been done for a while, but they're having to pay for the printing out of pocket because they had given a bunch of money to the printer and then he walked with it.
Oh no,
that's crazy.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Well,
So I'm not even mad that it's late. No. I'm not happy that it's late, but what else are you going to do, you know?
And that goes back to, updates and being honest about it. I can't hold anything against anybody. But
Josh has been pretty good about that.
The thing with Kraken is I almost went with Kraken to print the first Lone Wolf book. And I had got quotes from them, and I was like, man, this is all right price. Then they just stopped responding to me. And I'm like, okay, I'll just go with somebody else. And so I just lucked out because that's right when they crashed and all that stuff happened.
It's lucky.
I remember they were always advertising on, there was a Kickstarter podcast with a guy named Tyler, not the one we just saw. And he was always talking up Kraken. He was printing with Kraken. He was he was always doing these, like Cthulhu books. I don't know if y'all remember this, but it was slightly before everyone was watching YouTube. It was still when like you'd listen to podcasts to get info on how to.
When you used to get on the Kraken webpage, it would always show those books.
Yeah. You remember those? It was like baby Cthulhu books and stuff, which was a smart idea because it's open. It's no copyright on it. Like there was a market for that. But I guess that wasn't enough to pay their bills.
Yeah. Another thing Nick said in the chat, which is really interesting, there is a creator I met that does do grocery stores and sells books out of his van. He makes good money, but I'm not convinced. That's the kind of thing, like honestly, like if we get a campaign that has enough funding, or if we can generate enough sales where I can get a big print run, there's a news distributor in town that used to do comics in all of our gas stations and stuff. And I know some people that have gone to them for like print books, and they've handled distribution for print books through them. So I would love to get some comics into grocery stores around here, but I got to have the quantity. And that's just, Scott's Buffgaring, Kimball, Alliance. That wouldn't be very far. But I think that kind of outside of the box thinking about individual people going straight to local distributors, because I don't know if you guys know this, right? But back in the day, before Diamond was a deal, even when Diamond was a thing, when they weren't exclusive, a lot of small news distributors would buy comics by the tonnage from people, and they would bid on comics by the tonnage that would be from other smaller distributors. And so, like, if you got comics down at your gas station, chances are their local distributor bought just a bunch of comics from a bunch of different people by the pound, and then just distribute them wherever. And I think that there might be a way to find in your local area about getting them out to people, especially if you can keep them down at a price point where people can afford, which might be, having to buy 5,000.
Yeah.
If you buy 1,000, if you print 1,000 books through, I print with Mix'em, you can get them for nearly a little over $1 a piece. So you could sell books for $2 a piece and double, make your money back on every one of them.
Yep. As long as you have it all paid for ahead of time. But yeah, I think that's a big thing. So,
Just
as far
really,
as
you do have to watch out for the distribution rules, because those have changed. So you need to know what's going to happen to the unsold books. Like if they say that they can't distribute books that are not returnable, you have to understand that returnable means throw them in the dumpster with the cover stripped off. So you need to have massive quantities of books printed really cheap, practically throwaway, and you'll never see them again. But I don't know if that's true of all distribution schemes. So
yeah,
there might
and
be
it probably
some that don't do that.
well, and it probably matters company to company too, because like I was saying, back in the 70s, when they did the Bookmobile book, they were ones that DC had bought back from distributors, and they bought them for a cut rate, and so they sold them for less. But
Smart.
But that was just New York area. That wasn't nationwide or anything. So, and the other thing too is, like, sometimes if you go down to those dollar shop, the bargain shops or whatever, and you get old comics that are all polybagged, those are similar ones that have been bought from.
I was always wondering where those come from. I was buying packages like that from Ollie's a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, these look like brand new, and they're from the 80s. Where did they come from?
Yeah, they either never got put out on the shelf.
Wow.
Or repurposed. Nicholas says, as indies, we struggle with accessibility compared to mainstream. We're getting their product through many avenues. We need to be more mindful where the customer is and go there.
Yeah.
And that's actually, I have a crazy idea. I don't know if it's, is Tyler back?
I'm back.
Oh, hey.
I did battle with my baby and I won.
Well, there you go.
Finally.
Well, they wear out easy. That's the ticket. You just have to outlast them.
That's hard too.
It is. So how old is your one?
He'll turn 11 months next month. So he's 10 months.
Yeah. Is he walking yet?
No, thank freaking goodness.
My boys.
You don't have much longer.
Oh yeah. My oldest started walking at 9 months, and my youngest started walking at 11. So.
Yeah. Like, honestly, he's really self-sufficient. Like, I can, as long as I close all the necessary doors, I can just put him down and he'll play for like 2 hours by himself, and as long as I'm at the dining table, I can draw and keep an eye on him. He doesn't want to be played with. Leave him alone.
So,
but at night, it can be a battle sometimes.
Oh man, when Van, my eldest, when he was just really small, I used to lay him across my lap when I would type. And this is back in the day. I used to be a staff writer for the web fanzine called Fanzing. It was a comics fan magazine, and I had a couple of articles every month with them for a while, and so I just lay him across my lap as I'd work on these articles and stuff, and he just fall asleep right there. It was the most adorable thing ever. Now he's 19. He's a sophomore in college. He's got his own car. Never see him.
He's not cute anymore.
He wouldn't look cute curled across my lap. I'll tell you that much.
There we go.
For your life, he's gonna associate. Well, for the rest of his life, he's gonna associate the clacking of a keyboard with going to sleep. He's gonna marry a writer.
Yeah,
She's gonna be up all night.
He actually just finished a novel that he wrote, like a fan novel that he wrote. And I'm supposed to read it one of these days, but
Oh, cool.
it's a Legend of Zelda fantasy thing.
Oh,
So.
neat.
That's a thing that kids are doing. I
Yeah.
didn't realize.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Crazy kids.
when I was anyway.
They'll just write these novels about their video games. Like,
Yeah. Well, the funny thing, there's two funny things. One is like he loves Legend of Zelda because it's got this really thick mythology that they
well,
spend a
yeah,
lot of
we all
time on.
do. Yeah.
And so it's like this marriage of like Eastern and Western myth, which is one of the things like Donovan is keen on, like syncretic mythology stuff. He just likes to dig into that. So that's fun. But the other thing about it that's crazy is he actually looks like Link. So so he actually does a really good Link cosplay when we go to cons and stuff. So
Cool.
So Matt Crotts, do you got any kids?
I don't.
So me and you are just kind of like, yeah, kids.
Yeah, kids.
I wish.
You were one once. It's okay.
I got a dog.
A good dog.
so 6 months. Oh my goodness. So cute.
Oh,
Yep. But what was I talking about before? Oh, we were talking about distribution stuff.
yeah.
Can I
Reaching the customers.
let's see if this is too much of a diversion for you.
Okay.
But if we're talking about being independent, is crowdfunding too dependent for us? Okay, so like just thinking about what Rags has done and other people have done, instead of everyone kind of funneling into one of two platforms, is it better to figure out ways of producing the thing first and then just selling them on a per order basis? I feel like that kind of cuts out another middleman.
That's my goal in
Yeah.
the long run.
Cool.
We started it before crowdfunding existed, right? Our first printing of our first anthology was 07. It was 07.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that crowdfunding is a great model. But one of the things that I really learned through this campaign is it's tempting to use it as a replacement for sweat equity. Where you
that's familiar. That's like
sweat equity is the idea that you work first before you get any benefit, right? So there's a certain amount of ownership of a product that goes into what people work toward, and then there's the cash investment of it, right?
Yeah. Well, crowdfunding used to be like Kickstarter for years and years was a place that you went to after you were done with your webcomic, basically. Like once you hit the last chapter of your webcomic and you built up this following, then you said, okay, that book that you already read, that I already finished, and I finished it because you read it on my website. Now I'm going to sell it to you as a printed version. That's that's basically what people were doing. At least the successful ones,
Well, and I mean, then there was also people that are using it for seed money for starting business, where you have your template, you have your prototype that you've made, and so you're selling, your newer, better earbud.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's actually startup money to get the thing produced. Hey, I built this awesome thing, but I can't make it. So hey,
which is what I guess. That makes you wonder, because you're saying maybe it's not. Is that a replacement for sweat equity? Like saying
no, I think that kind of thing, because you've already made the thing, right? When you're doing an invention, you've already made it.
It's
not about putting the money forward to develop it, but also at the same kind of time, you had people that were crowdfunding to make a product, right? so they could hire the people. Like there were crowdfunded video games that never got made. There were Zoe Quinn's whole feminist frequency hoop-diddy-hoo, and she quit making them after she got paid.
Oh, really? I didn't. Yeah, I guess I missed
look
that.
It up. It's
your boy video.
Look it up. It's a total scam.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what I was going off on it. Oh, it may have been Sarkeesian, not Quinn. I can't remember. One of those two chicks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
no,
Chickette.
But yeah, so you think like getting off, because I dig crowdfunding in a way, but it is exhausting, and it does. There's a lot of collateral damage of the last 2 years on what the integrity of this sort of thing looks like.
Well, and I think that you have a couple of really good examples that you can point to, right? Of people that have kind of figured out different formulas for it.
Absolutely.
I think Rags is a really good example.
Yeah.
I think that the Bunny Boys, Tim and Mark, have a really good model. Get the book done first, and then use their crowdfunding platforms as the initial point of sale. And then they have other points of sale to follow up there. They've got that, the Antarctic's got first dibs. They've got they're doing the then they also have Iconic stores selling their overprinting and all that kind of stuff too. So that's another positive move for them. Yeah. And Rags, what they're doing is if you get it first if you're a patron. If you want it edited, you can get it from Antarctic, which suits me just fine. Then because it's such a fun story.
Can confirm.
So
officially.
But yeah, I think that's a good thing. But one of the things is Nick in the chat pointed out is you should always have a backup store or something beyond crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is like releasing a movie in theaters, make it a big deal, but you need something afterwards.
I like that.
And I think it can even work the other way around. And I think what the Rags guys just did with their crowdfunding, right, is demonstrate that it can work the other way around. They built up hype, by producing a product, by treating their patrons right, by getting that market, their troll marketing down to a machine, and then they went to crowdfunding, and there are still people, surprisingly, that still wanted that book. Yeah. And Star tells me I am right. I got Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian confused.
But you also have and I hate people like the Rags guys and Tim Lim, because as I'm about to do something else, they come into my life and they go, well, you should try it this way. And I'm like, you guys have such good advice, so I should take it. I was going to go the route of webtoons. I was gonna go because I think it's got a built-in talking about getting fans of comics. Well, webtoons has 14 million people go on every single day who aren't creators, who want to read their favorite comics. And then you have, and I'm gonna pick the biggest outlier of them all, but you have a woman named Rachel Smith who in 2018 has an idea called Lore Olympus. She's been making comics for 10 years and maybe has 100 Instagram followers. Well, she puts out this idea called Lore. Puts out a comic on Webtoons. It fails. She goes, I'll get this one more try. In 2018, she launches a webcomic called Lore Olympus. It this year hit 4 million subscribers.
Come on.
And on her Patreon, and so Webtoons pays her to be on there. But on her Patreon, she has 14,000 people every month paying her $1 to support her.
So
so thank you you so much for putting out this comic for free here. For me, I'll pay $1 each month.
See, that's something that I am going to be doing in the next quarter, right? Forces, we're just finishing up publication of the entire thing so far. I'm putting it on hiatus for new stuff for 2021, so we can work on some of the print projects, but we're going back through the archives and coloring them, and we're going to be simultaneously putting them on Webtoons and back on our own website. So that's something we're planning on doing, just because nobody's coming to our website. So we've had
you got to go to them. Yeah.
So that's the thing is I'm going to treat webtoons like that guy who's selling comics out of a van, and because Forces, one of the things we decided way back in the day was that with Forces, it's always going to be free, right? We're not going to charge anyone to read it because that's just one of the things we believe on. If we give a product out for free, then you can always get it for free. That's something we really wanted to do, because we hoped we'd find fans and we wanted to treat them right, and we didn't want to charge somebody for something. Not to throw shade on anyone who's done this, but I don't want to charge somebody for something that I was willing to give away for free, because I have other stuff that I want you to pay for. Yeah. It's just one little corner of our universe, man. Just one tiny little corner.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking of doing something different. When I get ready to launch the Kickstarter for printing costs for issue 3 of Soulbound, I was thinking about releasing like a slow drip of issue 1 on something like Webtoons, because it's really popular with my target market too. It's a lot of teen girls read their comics on Webtoons and Tapas and a lot of these sites.
Absolutely.
So
that's a good place for it.
If I could drive more traffic to my Kickstarter for issue 3, maybe I could do better than break even this time.
Like I've been following Jason Brubaker for like years and years, and and he was one of these like paid Webtoons people, and he had relative trouble. Like, some of his sales look like rounding errors for my whole campaigns, but he had some trouble getting people to go off of Webtoons onto his crowdfunding campaigns. But I think it's because there could be something to be said for his style and his genre that's just kind of like weird, kooky fantasy with a lot of edgy, kind of scratchy drawing style. Like, I don't know if that appeals to the average Webtoon person the way a lot of other campaigns do, because I do see a lot of people
you're right,
do very well.
Yeah,
they can cross audiences like that,
Webtoons has a huge female audience. They like romance and they like anime.
Yeah, and they like Korea. Yeah.
So if you
and more power to them. Yeah. You just got to figure out how to help them out.
Yeah. So if you can figure out how to do that, maybe it means you change up your art style. I mean, when I was gonna launch a fantasy romance on there, and I spent 3 months just practicing an anime style, and so hard. I was like, come on, Tyler, don't you want to get 4 million subscribers one day? You can draw those eyes. Come on. But I think a big thing is if you're gonna do something like that, it's important to know your demographic. And I remember reading Cithra on Webtoons, and it stood out because it didn't look like it belonged there.
Yeah, which can help, but maybe a lot of people are kind of like,
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, like I use that Rachel Smith lady, for example. She has one of the biggest she has one of the biggest Webtoons, but the second biggest Webtoon is what's it called? It's called Unordinary, and that she gets paid on Webtoon, but also her Patreon, she doesn't have a lot of support on it. So you just don't know what's gonna click. And also, Lore Olympus is not anime; it has a weird chalky art style.
Oh wow!
And that's like a couple of the guys on there's a whole group of little kids that Matt McGibson was pals with that are he started a Mattriarchy Discord server, which is full of all these Zoomer kids. And I go in there and walk around like the old guy who's like, hey, is this the new Halo 2 game? And which is a joke for Fly Fox. If he ever tunes in, he's probably busy with his baby.
Baby James.
Yeah. Anyhow, but yeah, so a lot of those kids are on Webtoons, and I said, talk to my son, we're looking at doing a mirror. What do you guys think? And they're like, well, I think it's a good idea. And they gave me some pros and cons and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think there's Nick talking about the idea of that Jason was having trouble getting people that wanted the free content versus people that want to pay for it, and that's a risk, definitely. But
Well,
yeah.
I'm a cheapskate myself, so.
Yeah.
But if I'm now, I followed this webcomic by Megan. Oh gracious, now I've lost her last name. But it was Beauty and the Beast webcomic, and I love seeing the different retellings of this particular fairy tale. And she did a fabulous job with it, and it was all black and white, beautiful line art, really amazing work, and the pacing in it was fantastic too. And I loved it so much, and I waited, for I think it was on Tuesdays and Thursdays every week that I would get to read my one page of it. And I was so excited because I, binge read the first section of it, and then I had to wait, and then she started coming out with collected editions, and I had to have it.
Yeah.
It was that compelling. I stuck with it for 2 years.
One of the funnest things I think about the Webtoon platform too is it saves your space. So like we've got almost 600 pages of forces, right? And it's hard to navigate through. And when we went through and redesigned the website to try to, make it easier to navigate by story and everything else, and it's better than it was, but it's still 600 pages. So that's I think that'll be a good fit based on that alone, because I have this huge. I don't even know if it would fit on a shelf.
But what you
600,
have
that's
there,
a lot.
Yeah, but what you have there is if you spend the time to format it for the Webtoons, you have like a bajillion episodes to put on there. And what the big thing about Webtoons is I find a Webtoon, I can read the first episode, and I go, if I like it, and there's like 30 episodes on there, well, it's time to binge, and I can read it on my phone. One of my there was one I found this year, and it got nominated for an Eisner. So
Wow.
Webtoons is being taken serious. Webtoons is being taken seriously in the comic space, but one of the things that's been stopping me is the fact that you are putting out this free content with the hope that in 3 or 5 years you've cultivated an audience. Hopefully, you don't know that, and then you can maybe crowdfund it and then you might get some people to back it, and that's hard for me because I'd rather just work on a 60-page comic and then put it out on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, print it, pay for it, send it out, I get some cash, and then on to the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's every technique that you settle on, every method, it serves a different purpose for different people. So what I need more of my demographic, and that's where they are.
Yeah, and I think that's a big factor, is trying to find out where the market is for something. And I don't know. I've been failing at this. I mean, for 15 years. So
You fail
I'm gonna try
closer
something
every
different.
time.
Oh man, but it's done. Well, not done. Anyhow, on a side note, we're almost at 2 hours, but there is one question about independence that we haven't addressed at all that I want to. One of the things that I think is, I don't want to say a trap, because I think there's a real benefit to it. But there is this tendency amongst creatives to kind of click up, right? And sometimes that happens, and it's just net wave relationships form. Like, on my little show here, I have repeat guests pretty frequently. And in this show, it's everybody except Tyler.
Yeah.
Hey, new kid.
What's up?
Yeah, it's a little it's good nepotism.
Yeah.
Right? It's
people I can depend on to show up. But I think that at the same time, right? That there's a tendency to tie your boat to other folks, and sometimes that works out well, and sometimes it doesn't. Especially when you end up depending on somebody who's not dependable, or if somebody is out there and can they take the chance at messing up your brand, right? So, what do you guys think about that?
I think it's gonna happen. I mean, as you go into this space and you're meeting a bunch of creators, you kind of see, okay, these are the people that I want to align myself with. These are the people that, and I think, and oh man, am I gonna get canceled for this? There might be times where you have like you're in one circle or clique, and you might outgrow some of them, and move on to another set of clique. It doesn't mean that you're forgetting them, but you're at a different caliber than them. I look at like people like Tim Lim, Matt here, Adam Lawson. Those creators are awesome. You got they're putting out dope books, and I look up to them and they inspire me to put out good better work so that I can then join their caliber, and then then they'll move up to a different caliber, and then I'll be right behind, hopefully. And then we'll all meet Jim Lee, and we'll shake his hand, and then we'll be like, we did it. We took over DC Comics. But I just think, I think it's just something that's going to happen where you're going to meet, you're going to have friends, you're going to stick with them. And then as you level up, you're going to meet other people who are in that level now, and they're going to be like, hey, welcome to this section of quality and hierarchy. And then you're going to keep moving up. I don't know. I would like to point out that everybody who comes on this show is slumming it. Everybody I have on is at a higher caliber of creation than I am, and that's okay. I've tricked you into no way.
Can I say something and not? I don't mean this like a huge butthole, but it's going to sound like it. I could care less about where the people around me are at or what they're doing.
Mm-mm.
I don't care anything about leveling up. I don't care anything about being friends with anybody. I make friends with people who. It's not about, well, hey, if I'm friends with this guy over here, and if I'm in this group, then this person will notice my book. I don't give a flip. I don't care. I'm not here to impress anybody. I want to make books and have fun doing it. And if you like my book and you want to buy it, that's cool. If you want to be my friend, that's cool. But other than that, I could care less about meeting Jim Lee myself, honestly.
All right, fine, Doug. You don't get to work at DC Comics with us.
Well, see, that's the thing. I say this, and there's nothing wrong with aspiring to that.
Yeah.
I'm 36 years old. I'm content in what I do. I don't want a job working at DC. I just do this for fun. It's like my music. I play music all the time. I actually create more music than I do comic content. And I'm fulfilled in that, but that's just me. And like I said, I'm not trying to be a butthole about it, but to me, it's just about creating. It's just about
having a silly goose time.
Yeah, you know what I mean. That's just me though.
You're good. Now there's an empty seat at our office, so we'll fill it.
Well, Doug's already. I think he's been a success for, and it's a really valid form of success for at least 6 or 8 months now, I guess, in terms of like, you had the dream of making a comic and getting it fulfilled, and you're doing it, right? Would you say like you're kind of meeting that dream goal? I mean, you'd always like to be reaching more, more backers.
Honestly, with the first book, I met the dream goal, and the second book's been a nightmare.
Yeah.
But you put out a quality book, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
And I think I think there's a real truth to that. But my take on it is honestly, and like I said, I joke about you all slumming it here because I've got the second least watched show on YouTube. It's okay.
No way. Don't say that.
You are a standby. Do you realize like you're the only just chill and chat show that isn't I don't know, talking about boogers and trying to bring in people.
You've yet to share your screen and been like, "Can you believe this bozo?"
I did talk about somebody else, but part of the thing is I somewhat lack the technical ability to do that, because of my choice in browsers. And second of all, because I stream from Firefox, and StreamYard doesn't like to screen share videos through Firefox. So there you go. But second of all, I'd rather talk about the content rather than just make fun of people, because it's the ideas that I care about. And so that's fun.
That's why we love you.
But the thing about it is
the realest show on YouTube. It's
one of the things that I really care about, right? Is I think that everything is political, but I also don't care for games. And so if somebody is gonna want to disassociate with me because the people that I hang out with, you can go screw yourself. I don't care,
but they should do it.
Yeah.
And it's not a game you can win because eventually.
I mean, exactly. It's like I have I've been
have
friendly
to cancel
with
all your friends at some point.
I've been friendly with some real contentious people, and not to drug up a whole thing, but if you guys, I've been friendly with some real contentious people, and I don't care. I mean, if they have something valuable to add to the conversation, if you're somebody who cares about comics, cares about culture, cares about history, cares about art, I want to have you on the show to talk about it. I don't care what enemies you've made, with a very few exceptions of people that I would rather cut off my digits than speak with. There's a very small list of people.
Yeah.
They make a certain frog book.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Well, I know a certain Facebook group you can join.
Yeah, they'll freaking take you in, those motherfuckers.
There's probably that's probably on record somewhere where I've said that more explicitly. But I mean, seriously, it's it's the ideas and the people that are willing to actually have open conversations about them and are willing to dig into it. And I'm wanting to work with anybody who's wanting to produce the level of story, the kind of concepts that I'm going to work toward, and that's the kind of thing that I want to work at. And so, I want to bring along people that I know care, that can have that on there. And the worst of it is for me. Yes,
he makes an amazing. I've seen his book around. Nicholas Mueller. I just want to point out, he's slumming it in the chat because he's better than all of us.
Yeah,
I don't know what he's doing here. He needs to take my.
Well, I'll tell you, the thing is that Nick reached out to me a couple of weeks ago, or probably about a month ago on Twitter, and he's just like, "Dude, I like your show." Said, "I've never listened to it live. I've never been in the chat.
No kidding.
But I like your show. Keep doing it." And I said, "Oh, okay. I'm having so and so on this weekend." And he's like, "I'll be in the chat."
There you go. His book, Demon Hunter Raven, it's got beautiful art.
He's been here every week since then. I think it's incredible. I believe it was I had Doug Ernst and Dan Sakharov on, I think, that week, and he was just like, "I'll be there." And he's just been every week, man, just tuning in. I don't know if he rearranged his entire life to watch my show, but it's humbling.
Yeah, he's good people.
But hey, Nick, if you want to pitch something, just shoot me an email. We'll have you on. You can then, a solid 30 people can watch the pitch. So, but yeah, Paula, before you've been really quiet for too long. So, what are your thoughts? Am I boring you now?
No, you're just that soothing. At least I get to say something about somebody else's accent for once.
Too many Southerners going on here. It's
Hey, don't you say that.
Southernarchy.
There's I mean, Southern.
I reckon you're about ready for a whooping there, Matt Crotts.
Oh, no.
Okay, let's see. My thoughts are pretty much what they usually are. We all need to stay independent. We don't need to go work for the big companies. They will stifle us and kill us, and swap us out for younger people who don't know what they're doing. And younger, cheaper overseas people who don't know what they're doing. And
I wonder who you're voting for.
it's a universal problem across many industries. So I don't ever want to work for a big company. I want to do my stories, and I want to be the one calling the shots for them. I think that we all need to stay indie in order to maintain that cohesive vision from one end, from the beginning to the end of our projects. And that's something that's lacking in entertainment, all across the board. So we do need to stay independent, but we need to do the cat herding thing and work together as well in order to gain visibility, because we can't just stay scattered all over the internet. Nobody can find us. We are not big enough on our own. So this is what I wanted to do with INDIE-pendence. I want to make a site where all the regular people know that this is where you can find the new stories, the good stories, the next breakout hit, the stuff that the creators care about writing and can produce to a standard that exceeds what's in the mainstream now. We are not cheaping out. And everywhere you look, everyone else is. And they don't care, and they're just churning it out, and that's not us. The whole world has turned from back, I don't know, whenever it was that the mainstream was where all the best stuff was. Now it's where all the trash is. And all the best stuff is independently produced again. We are back to the artisan. I'm losing words. I am very tired. But, we are back to an artisan mindset, and we are creating good stories that can appeal to mass audiences. It can even appeal to niche audiences, because now we're connected all over the world. You can find an audience, but can the audience find you? So we just need one spot for everyone to visit, and we need to talk it up to everybody who doesn't read our work, because it's not our genre. Our genre is not what they read, but they read all these other people, and get them to go visit INDIE-pendence. See if they can find a different creator that they can support, and support all of us indies as a collective while we're still off doing our own thing independently.
And I think one of the great things about the platform, in addition to its user friendliness, which if you guys haven't checked it out, just eyeball on over there. It's really cool. But one of the great things about the platform is that when you have a show like mine, I'm on for 2 hours a month, right? I'm 2 hours a week, right? And that's it. I can only fit so much stuff in there. So, even I go through stretches where I've got, creators on talking about individual projects, as opposed to having like the sit down panel discussions I've been doing the last month or so. But with something like that, you can only highlight so many things at a time, or it starts to feel like, oh, the show is just there to shill. The show is just there to sell stuff. And I don't know, for me, that gets boring. I'll tune it out if I'm just talking about this project and this project and this project, and not talking about talking, and I think that's one of the things where with the IndieGen XYZ, if you're looking for a product or you're looking for a kind of thing, you have as much time as you want to look it over. You're not being bogged down by whatever else. And I think that's a really positive thing. And I'm super excited to get Ideal Comics on there soon.
Nice. Can we get the link to that up on the screen?
Let me see if I've got it in a banner. I don't. I will make one.
Because that was a really compelling pitch, Paula, and I'm intrigued.
Oh, well, thank you.
Tell me if I've got it spelled right here. I think I do.
But yeah, if you know something by heart and you can say it in your sleep, you must really believe in it.
I think though, one thing that a lot of us indie guys have that's not in the mainstream is passion. I feel like a lot of the guys, you see the books, Marvel's really bad right now. It looks like people's just doing a job. They're just phoning it in. The artwork is very subpar. The colors are very subpar. And I think the reason the indies are so big right now is the people who have a passion and a drive to create are doing it because they love it. And that's gone from the mainstream right now. Those people are just doing a job.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's kind of the nature of the business, right? With so much business. And I think also part of the thing with DC and Marvel is that they're in a transition from being bought by these giant conglomerates. And I've talked at length about all of that. But yeah. So, well, guys, it's 2 hours and 16 minutes. I haven't had supper. Which I never have supper before my show. It's just a weird time because I usually eat a little later, and that's the whole thing at work. So I have weird hours. So, but we're gonna go. First of all, before we go, though, I want everybody to have a chance to sell themselves a little bit. And Paula, I'm gonna let you go first because you already talked about IndieGen, but what else you got going on? Because you're fading quick, so I don't mean to be rude. I'm just I say things.
Yeah, I get a little stary. Yeah. Okay, so there's IndieGen.xyz. If you look on the home page, scroll down. There's a link. It says application form. It's free. Mostly it's check boxes, and I just need to know, how can customers reach you and what kind of search tags you want me to put on it. And I will get you loaded in. And let's see, I still have many copies of, I have copies of Soulbound 1 for sale on my website, which you can actually find it through IndieGen.xyz. Oh, there's my new button. It says, I put a picture that links to the browsing page on the home page too. So yeah, this is IndieGen.xyz is not just for comics, it's also for novels, for shows. I've linked to a YouTube show. I linked to Amazon author pages. Yeah, and there's all different kinds of genres on there. I want to add more comic shops, and I want to add more gaming, more games and stuff. So yeah, you can reach my my site otherrealmstudio.com, either through IndieGen or just go to otherrealmstudio.com, and you can order Soulbound 1 on my homepage. And as soon as I ship out Soulbound 2, I'm gonna put up Soulbound 2 for official sale on my site too. Oh, thank you, Star. So yeah, you can see how the site works when you scroll over something, when you click on it, and you can even click through to any of the websites, and I can add more links in the text. But let's see, you can search by media that you're in, the genre, the maturity rating. Because, one thing that I would do if my kids were searching on this site, like say Miss Chaos, I'd say, okay, but you can only search when the search is set on rated G. And another thing, the reason I have states on there is because the single most desirable factor for any comic shop to stock your independent comic is, are you local?
Sure.
So if comic shops want to browse through or any kind of retail store, they want to support the indies, but they want to support the indies that are from, maybe not their hometown, but at least their state. They should be able to do that. I want to add in more features to make it easier for retailers to use this as well. I want to add a tag for retailer specials.
Nice.
And other stuff like that. Okay, there's my site, Other Realm Studio. You can order Soulbound 1 on that first page. I also do art commissions, although my schedule's kind of full now because I just got a new gig today. And the last thing on my Twitter account, which is Richey_Paula. It's terribly original. My pinned tweet has to do with this project that I want to take on, and I don't have time for it. I don't have time to do a campaign for it. I want to make sure that there are a ton of people interested in this project before I try launching a campaign for it. This is Asha, Asha's story is that she is a feral jungle queen on a hostile planet, and she meets a roguish scavenger pilot, and they fight space pirates. They start a mutiny and all kinds of awesome stuff. So
Dude,
if you just like her picture, I will know that you have seen it.
Going there now.
Awesome.
So, Doug.
Yes. I'm Doug.
Hey, Doug.
Hi. I'm feeling it, guys. I'm really tired. But you can find most of the stuff I'm up to at gravestonepress.com. We've got a link to the Etsy store on there. We've got some up and coming stuff on there. Right now, I don't have the links up for the Otis Stein yet, but on Indiegogo, we're about to launch Otis Stein by Skinny. Everybody, you know Skinny. You may not love Skinny, but he's a pistol. But he's about to release his book, and I'm going to help him with that. And right now, we're running Vestry on Kickstarter with the Matt Weldon cover.
Beautiful cover.
Pickles and Shabby have put a lot of work into that book, and we just fulfilled their Indiegogo for the regular cover. So, got other stuff lined up. We've got plenty of stuff to do. So just keep an eye out, gravestonepress.com. I'll try to keep y'all updated. I just want to say also, this is probably my favorite panel that's been on Matt's show so far. And, y'all are great, and every one of you. I see you all on Twitter. I might not always comment on what you post, but
see now you know he's tired because he's.
Yeah, I'm being nice.
Happy.
Actually, usually when I'm tired, I'm in a really bad mood. But tonight, I don't know. I've really enjoyed this show. This has been one of my favorite shows I've been on in a long time.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of good people here.
So, well, Matt, what are you up to, man?
Well, I'm next month is fulfillment month, so I'm trying to prep for that. I have original art that goes out to international people because I'm trying to really build up a bigger, better international audience, because I think that's where my particular audience is for Kyrie. So book 2, Exiles in Wasteland, going out next month. And then 2021 plans, because it takes, I don't know, there's a lot of mental energy that's been spent over the last between fulfilling book 1 and fulfilling book 2. I'm like halfway through where I should have been with book 3. And so instead of basically my 2021 plans are probably going to be to hire some people to do some issues of some side quest stories, like 24-page, maybe 36-page books, and kind of try something that's closer to like a rags approach or something where, produced up front with my money, and then I'm selling them on a per order basis. So I'm going to be doing that while I'm finishing up book 3, and then getting right back, I guess, into this crowdfunding thing. Maybe late 2020, 2021 or something. So that's the plan. But yeah, we're going strong. We're having fun. So, you're playing. That's nice of you.
Yeah, I cannot wait for volume 2. I just that.
Yep.
I'm so stoked. I mean, I know I have to wait, but I can't wait.
I appreciate it.
And you're also doing fulfillment on Carlton Crux.
Yeah.
And is that still in demand right now?
That's in demand until probably late winter, early spring is what we're looking at, because he started he started the book a bit before. He did a ton of prep work, but he started pages like a bit before the campaign launched, so he didn't have as much upfront content produced. And I mean, you guys have seen the pages; they're beautiful. They're better than my stuff, and he's earning it. But it takes him longer. And but yeah, we're doing that, and we got a stretch goal hit where we're able to do some short story stuff from I think a Ukrainian artist who's simply just absolutely incredible, stunning, just naturally understands like the noir 30s, 40s style. Just loves drawing people in that style. So we got her in, and we have funds to pay her. So that's exciting. So yeah, we're going to be fulfilling that. Geez, you're making me realize I'm probably be fulfilling that at the same time I'm doing this Kyrie Tales thing. So that's going to be a nightmare. But yeah, like I said, Doug did it first, so I knew I could do it.
If Doug can do it, anybody can, right? A big dummy.
No, you showed us the way. Yep.
So,
Good times.
Tyler, I think you're the last one, and I wanted to give it to you to close us out, sort of, because you're the new guy, man. So let us know what you look at.
I lost my Mattriarchy virginity tonight. My ending's probably going to be quick because my baby just woke up again. So that's going to be really fun. So I'll be real quick. Just you can follow me at youtube.com/drawandtalk. I do 1 or 2 pre-recorded videos each week where we either do some commentary or we do some how-tos and about comics, whether it's marketing or how to make the comics. And then we have a live show every Tuesday night with various creators. A lot of it's selfish. The creator will come on to promo, but sometimes I'll be like, hey, I really want to learn something from this creator, so I'll snag them on. And then that's the best place to find me. All my links are there. But really grateful to be part of this panel. Thank you, Matt, for inviting me. And seriously, don't be shy. Please invite me again. I'm a nobody, so please, you go ahead and invite me. But I'm gonna bounce like right now.
Okay.
But yeah, seriously, hit me up. See you guys. See you, Doug. See you, Matt. Nice to meet you, Paula.
See ya.
Yep. Later, Tyler.
And I will say, since it is my show, I will end with my own pitch. and I will go ahead and check out. Give me just a second because I didn't even load it up here.
Load it up.
Load it up.
You can't.
Because I have
got to
all
pitch it from memory. You got 15 years to pitch that.
Oh man, I know. I just wanted to show I wanted to show off the new
nice.
Not the new layout, but some of the new content on there.
Oh, cool.
So, because I just got the keys to the back door, man. So,
Back door keys.
Yeah. I don't have to load it up, but Ideal Comics, I've been doing it for a super long time, and we make comics in the web and for print. Fly Fox Pro has just announced that he is bringing his webcomic Peter the Problematic Person into our universe, and that's our featured story right now. But also we have I've been uploading old blogs and commentaries and reviews that we've done from our last version of the website up there. So you can go check out some reviews that we've written up there. Chris had a review he did back of Spider-Man 3 from 2007. So that's a fun one. And my review of Doug TenNaples' Bad Island is up there. A fun article about getting into making indie comics called Chris Lawton Ruined My Life. But yeah, so that's kind of what's going on there. You can also follow a link to our various websites, Force of Good and Evil, our big web comic. Chris's old Gamer Comics Adventures of Seth and Murphy, which also happens within our universe, and Fly Fox's Peter the Problematic Person. We are going to be opening up probably a wiki style cast for our greater heroes and stuff. That's all there. And you can occasionally catch us talking about making comics on our YouTube channel. So Barry and I try to get together about every Tuesday to do a brainstorming session, and that's all that is. So, but yeah, feel free to check it out. If you want to see us make comics in the background, we upload works in progress to our Patreon, and that's all that. And all the money goes toward making new comics. So, but yeah, that's the show, guys. Next week, maybe Brian Ball to talk about the first volume of Rags, which just wrapped, and I just read, and I'm going to have all sorts of questions that Brian will refuse to answer because that's the kind of guy Brian is.
he'll just laugh at you.
He'll be just like, I can't say.
Yeah.
Actually, typically, whenever I've said anything, I ask him a question he doesn't want to answer. He's like, I'm sorry, the internet just cut out on me. What did you say?
It's beautiful.
It's amazing. Dude's a king troll. It's hilarious. Weekend after that, we're having an old guy stream where we're going to be talking about are we born to suffer the plight of a long-term comics fan? And I've got Eric Hawkins is coming on. RJ from Critical Blast is coming on. Mike Hutchison is coming on. Hutch is super excited. He just got himself a new microphone, so he's really excited. So that's in 2 weeks. So everybody, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you in September.
See y'all.
So later, guys.